Welcome to Kittanning, Pennsylvania, a quiet little town nestled along the Allegheny River, where crime is usually limited to teenagers shoplifting energy drinks and old men driving their Buicks through red lights. This is not the kind of place where grand heists happen. No high-stakes bank robberies. No diamond thefts. Just good old-fashioned small-town life, which is exactly why no one expected that one day, seemingly out of nowhere, an entire 50-foot steel bridge would just vanish. Yes, you read that right. An entire bridge. Gone. Not a plank. Not a railing. The whole thing. Now, you might be thinking, surely someone noticed? You'd assume the answer would be yes. But you'd be wrong. Because somehow, a group of incredibly bold or incredibly stupid criminals managed to steal it in broad daylight, right under the noses of the townspeople, without anyone suspecting a thing. The bridge to nowhere, literally. The bridge in question wasn't some major highway overpass or a vital piece of infrastructure. It was an old, abandoned railway bridge, rusting away over a creek on the outskirts of town. It hadn't been used in years. No one really cared about it. But just because no one was using it doesn't mean it wasn't valuable. To the right people, that much steel was worth a fortune. And that's where our not-so-brilliant masterminds come in. Somewhere, somehow, a group of thieves looked at that bridge and had the following conversation. Hey, you know what would be a great idea? What? We steal the bridge. The whole thing, yeah. Won't people notice? Nah, we'll make it look like a construction job. Brilliant. Thus began one of the most absurd heists in small-town history. Step 1, just act like you belong. The first rule of any good crime, confidence. Walking like you own the place, and no one will question you. If you have a clipboard, you can probably get into NASA. If you wear a reflective vest and carry a wrench, you could probably walk into a power plant. And if you roll up to a bridge with some heavy machinery and a couple of guys in hard hats, congratulations, you're now a construction crew. That's exactly what they did. One fine morning, trucks pulled up, men hopped out, and work began. Right there, in broad daylight, they started dismantling the bridge. Sparks flew as saws sliced through steel beams. Workers shouted instructions. Metal screeched as huge chunks of the bridge were loaded onto trucks. It looked like nothing more than routine demolition. People saw it. People drove past it. People waved at them. Some even slowed down and thought, guess they're finally tearing that thing down. And then they went about their day, never questioning why no one had heard a single announcement about bridge removal. That's the beauty of social conditioning. We assume people in uniforms are doing what they're supposed to be doing. No one stopped to ask, hey, who hired these guys? Or why is this happening? Nope. The town collectively shrugged and moved on with their lives. Step 2, cut it up and load it out. This wasn't some rickety wooden bridge. It was a solid steel structure. Taking it apart wasn't exactly like kicking over a Lego set. The thieves had to slice through thick metal beams, use cranes to lift sections onto flatbed trucks, and haul away literal tons of scrap without raising suspicion. But thanks to their official-looking approach, it all went off without a hitch. By sunset, the bridge that had stood for decades was now reduced to neatly stacked pieces of metal on the back of several trucks, ready to be driven away and sold for scrap. The town? Completely unaware. No police, no alarms, no nothing. It was quite frankly one of the most absurdly successful heists in history. But as with all great criminal endeavors, hubris is a dangerous thing. By all accounts, the plan was perfect. They pulled off the impossible. They stole a bridge in broad daylight without a single person stopping them. They were home free until someone noticed the one tiny, crucial detail they had overlooked. A question that would unravel everything. A single realization that would send the police straight to their doorstep. And it all began with a simple thought. Wait, wasn't there a bridge here? How do you even steal a bridge? The moment of realization was subtle. It wasn't a dramatic movie scene with gasps and thunderclaps. It wasn't some grand discovery with police sirens wailing in the distance. It all started with one old man walking his dog. He stopped near the creek, looked around, and frowned. Something's missing, he muttered, scratching his head. His dog, An equally old and equally unimpressed beagle sniffed at the ground, completely unconcerned with his owner's growing confusion. The man looked again. The trees were there. The water was flowing. The path he'd walked every morning for the past 20 years was still there. And yet, something was definitely missing. He turned to a passing jogger. "Hey, you notice anything weird around here?" The jogger, panting heavily, barely glanced up. No." The old man pointed toward the creek. "The bridge. What about it?" The man narrowed his eyes. "It's not there." The jogger finally stopped, wiped some sweat from his brow, and actually looked, his face scrunched up in confusion. Huh. The two of them stood in silence for a moment, staring at the empty space where, just days ago, a 50-foot steel bridge had stood. Then the jogger shrugged. "Maybe they took it down?" "Who's they?" the old man shot back. The jogger had no answer. He adjusted his earbuds and trotted off, deciding that whatever was happening, it wasn't his problem. But the old man wasn't done. He took out his flip phone, because of course he had a flip phone, and called the local authorities. And that's when the real chaos began. The police respond to the most absurd call ever. When the call came into the police station, Officer Bill Thompson took it. He listened, blinking slowly, as the old man on the other end of the line explained, in a very matter-of-fact way, that an entire bridge had disappeared. "Sir," Thompson said carefully, "you're telling me someone stole a bridge?" "That's exactly what I'm telling you," the old man snapped. Thompson leaned back in his chair and took a long, exhausted sigh. It was 9 a.m., and he hadn't even finished his first coffee. He signaled for his partner, Officer Dave Reynolds, and put the call on speaker. "Can you repeat that?" Reynolds asked. "I said the bridge is gone," the old man repeated. "One day it was there, now it's not. You cops gonna do something about it? Or do I need to solve this myself?" Thompson and Reynolds exchanged a look. "We'll send someone over." When Officers Thompson and Reynolds arrived at the creek, they half expected this to be a misunderstanding. Maybe the old man was just confused. Maybe he was referring to a different bridge. But no, they parked their cruiser, stepped out, and were immediately met with absolutely nothing. Where there should have been a steel bridge, there was now just an empty gap, as if Mother Nature had taken an eraser and scrubbed it out of existence. "Holy crap," Reynolds muttered. Thompson crossed his arms. "Well, that's new." They both stood there in silence, staring at the empty space. Finally, Reynolds turned to the old man, who was now standing triumphantly with his arms crossed. "All right," the officer said. "I'll give it to you. That's definitely weird." "Told ya," the old man grunted. The officers didn't even know where to start. There was no crime scene tape, no security cameras, no clear suspects. It wasn't like someone had stolen a car or broken into a house. This was a bridge. Who the hell steals a bridge? And more importantly, how? The police did what police do best. They started asking questions. They talked to locals. They checked municipal records. They called every construction company within a 50-mile radius, asking if anyone had been contracted to remove an old railway bridge. The answer? A resounding no. No permits. No official records. No authorized demolition. That's when the realization hit. This wasn't a scheduled removal. This was an actual, honest-to-God heist. And now, the biggest question of all, how the hell did no one notice? As the police pieced together witness statements, they uncovered the most mind-boggling part of crime. Multiple people had seen the thieves. Multiple people had watched the bridge being taken apart. And multiple people had thought it was just a construction crew doing their job. One woman, a local teacher, even waved at them as she drove by. "It looked official," she later told reporters. "They had trucks, hard hats, everything. I just assumed they were supposed to be there." And that was the genius of it all. The thieves had pulled off the ultimate trick. Not by sneaking around in the dead of night, but by being so obvious that no one thought to question them. They had heavy machinery, work vests and hard hats, clipboards because people respect clipboards, the sheer audacity to do it in broad daylight. And because they looked the part, no one batted an eye. For all their boldness, The thieves had made one colossal mistake. Scrap metal, especially from something as big as a steel bridge, doesn't just vanish. It has to go somewhere. And that's where they got sloppy. Instead of quietly selling off small pieces over time, the thieves got greedy. They started selling massive chunks of steel to local scrapyards. One scrapyard owner in particular got suspicious when a group of guys showed up with way more steel than any normal demolition job would produce. "Where'd this come from?" he asked. The lead thief, Jerry, shrugged. Old warehouse." The scrapyard owner nodded but made a mental note, because something didn't sit right. Later that day, after hearing about the missing bridge on the news, he put two and two together, and then he called the cops. Within days, the police had tracked down Jerry and his crew. Their transactions at various scrap yards left a clear paper trail. So, stealing a bridge in broad daylight, without anyone noticing, that takes guts. Managing to disassemble it, transport it, and sell it off without a hitch, that takes skill. But knowing when to stop, well, that's where our criminal masterminds showed their true colors. The reality is, no crime, no matter how bold or ridiculous, can stay hidden forever. And as it turns out, when you steal something as big as a bridge, people start asking questions. The thieves might have pulled off one of the most absurd heists in history, but it wasn't long before their own stupidity caught up with them. And oh, did it catch up with them. Mistake one: selling the evidence in the most obvious way possible. If you steal something valuable, the smart thing to do is move it quietly, break it down, sell it off in small amounts, avoid drawing attention. But these guys, they decided to do the exact opposite. Instead of finding a way to discreetly get rid of thousands of pounds of stolen steel, they went straight to local scrapyards. Not scrapyards out of town, not a black market dealer. Nope, local scrapyards right in their own backyard. One by one, they started showing up at different scrapyards with truckloads of steel. And at first, it worked. Scrapyards didn't ask too many questions. Metal was metal, and as long as the price was right, nobody cared too much where it came from. But then things got excessive. One scrapyard owner, Bob, started noticing something weird. Mistake two: using their real names on transactions. If you're going to commit a massive crime, you might want to avoid leaving a paper trail. Maybe, just maybe, use fake names when selling thousands of pounds of stolen steel. Not these guys. No, Jerry and his crew decided that filling out actual, legitimate paperwork at the scrapyard was the way to go. Driver's licenses? Handed over without hesitation. Names and addresses? Written down on official sales receipts. Contact numbers? Yep, real ones. They may as well have sent the police an email with their home addresses and subject line: "Here's where you can arrest us." As soon as Bob made that call, it didn't take long for law enforcement to piece things together. They checked the scrapyard records. They checked who had been selling massive amounts of steel. They found the names. And guess what? Those names led them straight to Jerry's crew. But the best part? The thieves had been making multiple transactions over the span of a few weeks, all under their real identities. They didn't just make one mistake. They made the same mistake over and over again. Mistake number 3, bragging about the heist. If you somehow manage to pull off a near impossible crime, the last thing you should do is talk about it. But Jerry and his crew? Oh, they couldn't help themselves. Word started spreading around town. At bars, at parties, even at backyard barbecues. "Hey, you hear about that bridge that disappeared?" "Oh, yeah. I might know a guy who knows a guy who..." "Wait, are you saying you know who did it?" "I'm just saying some people know how to make a quick buck." That's right, these guys were bragging. They wanted people to know. They thought they were legends. They were about to become legends, all right, for being complete idiots. Because as soon as the police caught wind that people were casually throwing around insider details about the heist, all they had to do was follow the gossip. And just like that, the case practically solved itself. Because when you steal an entire bridge and then make every possible mistake to get caught, it's only a matter of time before the hammer drops. And oh, did it drop? The arrests? Cracking under pressure. Early one morning, police rolled up to Jerry's house. Knock, knock. Jerry, who was probably still half asleep and dreaming about his next big heist, stealing a water tower perhaps, opened the door and froze. 5 cops, guns holstered, serious faces, and one of them, Officer Bill, leaned forward and said, "So, you want to tell us what happened to that bridge?" Now, there were 2 possible ways Jerry could have played this. 1, deny everything, lawyer up, and hope the evidence wasn't airtight. 2, panic and immediately confess to everything. Guess which one he chose? If you said option 2, congratulations, you understand just how bad these guys were at crime. Jerry didn't even last 5 seconds. He blurted out, "Look, okay, yeah, we took it, but, it was just sitting there." The officers exchanged glances. "Officer Bill, you do realize that doesn't make it free, right?" Jerry, technically? Officer Bill, technically not. The rest of the crew cracked even faster. One guy tried to play dumb. "Bridge? What bridge?" Another guy just groaned and muttered, "Ah, crap. We're screwed, aren't we?" Yes, they were. The aftermath, mugshots, memes, and maximum embarrassment. As expected, Jerry and his crew were arrested on the spot and hit with a whole list of charges. Grand theft, because, they stole a freaking bridge. Criminal mischief, for causing a messing process. Unlawful sale of stolen property, because selling bridge parts isn't exactly legal. And their mugshots? Oh, they're glorious mugshots. Within hours, their faces were all over the news. The headlines practically wrote themselves. Pennsylvania's dumbest criminals steal an entire bridge. How not to commit a crime. A guide by Jerry and friends. Bridge heist ends in predictable disaster. The internet had a field day. Memes flooded social media. Someone photoshopped Jerry's mugshot onto a most wanted poster with the crime labeled as grand theft. Infrastructure. Another user posted a picture of an empty road with the caption, "Breaking news, bridge stolen. Authorities looking for suspect with extremely large pockets." Even the judge couldn't resist. During sentencing, he straight up looked Jerry in the eye and said, "You really thought you were going to get away with this?" Jerry shrugged. Kinda. Facepalm. Who actually won? So, let's do a quick crime scoreboard. The town? They got a ton of entertainment. And probably some new security measures. The police? Easiest case they ever solved. Jerry practically turned himself in. The news and internet? Content for days. Jerry and the crew? Jail time. Fines. A lifetime of being the guys who stole a bridge and got caught instantly. And, as a final insult to injury, the only people who made real money from this crime were the journalists, YouTubers, and documentary makers who turned their stupidity into golden content. Final thoughts? Crime doesn't pay. If you're going to steal something, maybe don't steal something that literally everyone notices when it's gone. If you do steal something that ridiculous, at least have the decency to use fake names when selling it. And most importantly, maybe just don't steal a bridge at all.